All right, let's call our workshop, our budget workshop meeting to order at this time on February the 29th. It'll be 4 years before we can do this again on February 29th. And we'll start with our salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and now I'm going to just turn it right over to Mr. Ross.
Excellent. I want to make sure that we get our agenda items out. I know that I'll go over the agenda, and then I got a quick opening activity, and then we'll get right to the budget. One agenda item, Judy, we didn't really talk about. Do you want to bring up tonight and we can do it at the end, to move the public forum
yes.
from Monday, Thursday?
Yes.
So let's do it at the end.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, or we can just do it right now.
It's up to you.
Just takes a minute.
Okay, so let's start with that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Our public hearing that we had set, our informational night, we had set for Thursday, which is Holy Week, and it's Maundy Thursdays, and there's a lot of people that have church services that night. So either Monday or Tuesday of that week, will that work for anybody?
Instead of the Thursday.
Instead of the
Instead
Thursday?
of the Thursday.
Yeah.
And this is the school's forum, so of
This
course,
is-
public
this is-
everybody can come.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure the school committee members can make it.
She'll be in the country.
Monday.
Yes, either of those is
Either
fine.
25 or 26?
Yeah. What day is it?
March
March 25 or 26?
25 or
Why don't we do
26,
the 26th?
26.
Tuesday
okay.
nights.
Tuesday the 26th?
6 PM still?
6 PM sounds good.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. And that's really our next time we need to get together for anything. As long as tonight goes well, that'll be the next time we need to get together for budget stuff, will be that one forum with the public. Excellent. So we got that out of the way.
We
Thank
have
you,
a
Judy.
we have a meeting before that.
14.
Yeah.
Right, that's a regular school board meeting, but we should be out of budget by then, after tonight. That was part of the agenda. Tonight is to go over Article 2 and 6, which is regular instruction, and then 6, a combination of IT, nurse, social worker. That'll take care of the entire budget, and then we'll look at the overall, what we looked at as an overall budget. We'll have the school committee vote on that budget with the articles per article, and then we'll have the warrant and finance review each of those same articles with a recommendation of yes or no, and then that'll conclude our meeting. I talked with Jennifer, and I do believe, I haven't talked to her today, but she's gonna pop in here in the next half hour to 45 minutes. Because when we're done, I think there's some work that the
We
warrant
have
and
some
finance.
business, yeah.
And just stay here and do it. At that point, we'll be done. I'll probably leave and leave it to Jennifer for you guys to finish your business. And I don't know if you want that on, I asked for Jen, she wasn't sure. You wanna keep the camera rolling for that?
Yeah, because we're gonna be taking votes, so we need to have the camera.
That sounds excellent.
It needs to be taped.
That sounds excellent. All right, thanks, Leslie. So what I thought I would do is, because it's our last meeting, and instead of asking what your favorite animal is, your favorite album, or your favorite rock band, I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna ask to pass these around every other person. So if I start with Judy, she'll take one, keep it face down.
Okay.
Then pass it every other person, because I got another one for the other people. So not to Jeanette, but to pass on to Mary. Keep it
All right.
face down.
All right, face down.
To Mary, and then there should be enough. And then the next one, Jeanette, face down. Take one face down and pass it along, just Jeanette, not you. No, this is, yep, Jeanette. Yeah, and then, yeah, you've got yours,
Okay.
and now Amanda needs
Okay.
hers. Everybody gets one piece of paper, but they're different, okay? Of course, I didn't front load my PBIS expectations, maybe I should have, Joe, so we need to be nice to each other, and we need to pass things appropriately. This is what we do in PBIS. Not calling anybody out, just saying. All right, you ready for this? Everybody got something in front of them?
Almost.
Almost. All right. Now you each have something different, so I think, Ray, we'll start with you and go around the room.
No habla inglés.
Nice move, Ray. Good try, Ray. Right, sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yeah, bitte. Very good. Yes, Ray, thank you for saying you go first. I appreciate that. And take a look at what you got. Take a look at it quick and tell us what you see and then show everybody else.
I see a young lady with a hat with her head turned over.
Is that what you see? Lee, what do you have? And what do you see?
I see two people looking at each other.
Awesomely, all right. Joe, what are you looking at?
It looks like I have a young lady with her eyes down.
Okay.
Looking down on
Kind of looking over her shoulder a little bit.
her shoulder, but looking down on us.
Very good. Daniel,
It's like two people staring at each other.
two people staring at each other, okay. What do you got there, John?
I have a lady with a hat, fancy hat on,
Yeah.
looking the other way.
Amazing, okay. Leslie, did you get one? You got one, what do you got?
I see a vase.
Aha, thank you,
Upside
Leslie. Okay, okay, Leslie, that's when you first looked at it, right?
Depends on how you.
Yeah, Judy, what do you got?
Nope.
You gotta turn around the other way.
This way?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't do an orientation. There you go.
I see
Could that be
a
like
girl
Yeah,
in a hat
kind of looking over her shoulder.
with kind of fluffy hair.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Jeanette,
I look at two people like something's gonna happen.
they're looking at each other? Okay. Mary?
Looks like my cat.
Hold on, there's gotta be something.
No,
There's an alternate, what is
no.
it, Mary, what is
Monkey.
it?
I
Do you-
can't
do you
remember
see
the other
anything
thing
in
it's supposed
that?
to be.
No?
Oh, it's
Sometimes
a
people
lady
don't see
looking
anything.
away. She's got a hat on with a
Yeah,
feather.
the feather hat.
Oh,
Remember the expectations. Thank you.
PBS.
Yeah, I'll just say the lady until I keep looking at it.
Okay, that's fair enough. What do you got?
I've got the two people.
You got the
and
two
the
people.
base. But I see the two people
You see the two
first.
people first.
I know there's supposed to be something else I'm supposed to see
What do you
too,
see?
but I see the lady looking over her
Isn't that
shoulder with
the lady?
hat.
I got-
I know,
I'll-
I can't remember what the other thing is
Gotcha.
supposed
It's a
to
pretty
be.
famous photo.
I
yeah.
know.
Is that? Oh.
Paula, I think you're gonna wrap it up with, I don't know which one you got.
I see a vase.
All right.
A
So,
what?
a vase.
Part of it.
So Paula, hold that one up, because not everybody has it.
Vase. A
Who
vase.
here sees two people with black faces looking at each other? Raise your hand. Those of you with your hands up, do you also see the white vase
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
candle
Yeah.
holder?
Yes.
You see both, don't you?
Yeah.
No.
You don't see that, do you? In that one, you don't see
This
it in
is
hers?
the vase, right here. The white.
The white part.
is the vase.
I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at those people. It's gonna happen someday.
So let's go.
She's gonna hit him with a vase.
Yeah.
With Ray, you started it.
Yeah.
Hold yours up.
Horse or
Could be a
something?
table
This
full
one
of
was
that.
unanimous. Nobody figured out the other. Everybody said they saw a lady looking
It's,
over her
it's
shoulder.
a horse or a
Is
duck
it a
or something,
river?
but I can't
don't
see
No?
it.
Is that
Does
a-
anybody else see
is that a-
anything else?
Is it a
I
bird?
almost see
Is it a
mountain.
bird?
Teachers, do you know what the other one is if I give it to you? Because this just came up in Ally's class. That's why I'm doing this.
Is it a bird?
Do you know what the
feeling-
other thing is on this when you look at it?
No, maybe it's some famous
Is it a
woman.
bird putting birds in the
It'll
nest?
stand out to you if you see
Could be
it.
the queen or something.
And you won't be able to unsee
See the
it then.
woman looking
Right.
over her shoulder?
Right.
I can see the woman looking away and.
Does anybody see like a hag type lady
and
with
the
a
other one's
nose?
Like an old.
An old lady.
haggard.
Oh,
You
okay.
see the
Haggard
nose
lady.
would, the nose would be there.
Yeah.
So the nose of the lady that looks kind of witchy-like is right there. That's the nose looking down.
I can see, I knew
Do you
this was
see her?
something with a nose, but I
Do you
can't-
see her?
1933 movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Wizard of Oz.
I can't
No.
see it.
You can't see that. So hold on to those if you want. Take it home
I
and show
know.
your kids. See which one you get.
That's your mouth and this
I
is
wonder
your
if it's the
chin.
copy.
So
Because I know I've seen it, before. I've been able to see it
These are
before.
two
in
eyes
other,
looking down.
like,
That's
versions.
Oh,
You see
yes.
it?
I don't see it.
You see the lady?
This is her
That's the
mouth.
lady.
That's
And
the
that's
mouth
her
and that's
chin.
the nose.
And that's her nose.
That's the mouth. That's the nose. That's the chin.
this
That's
is
the
her
eyes.
nose.
That's her bonnet.
That's her
She's
mouth.
looking down.
And
Oh,
that's her
I
chin.
finally see it.
So
Yeah.
when you see it, you'll see it.
Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
can't
you
unsee
can.
it.
So
So she's thinking about when she was young?
maybe
With the
These
feather?
are her
it's an old lady or a young lady. It's all on how you see it.
Oh, okay, I got it now.
The faces
This is her
with the
mouth,
with the
that's her
candle
chin,
is pretty
that's
easy, I
her
think.
mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one stands out. Yeah. So
Yeah.
today
Table.
I lose it. I can see it for like a couple seconds. and then I just-
Perception.
yeah.
it is. So everything is, you know, how you see the world,
Yeah,
right?
it's the
So
lady with the hat.
in 7th grade or 8th grade, one of the two, the math class, the teachers, she's really funny. Allie, one of our new teachers, is awesome, and she was looking at this dress, and she says, "What color is it?" And I said, "It's black with blue trim or something."
No,
And
not that dress.
everybody's like, "No, the dress is like green or
white,
gold."
gold,
And I'm
gold.
like, "What?" Like, I couldn't see it any other
Black
way
and
than
blue
I
or
saw
gold?
it, so.
Yep.
I think to kind of wrap up why I do this, because I think we all know each other now, we don't have to do names or anything, but everything's your perspective, right? How you see things. Somebody sees an old lady, somebody sees a new lady, younger lady. Some people see a vase, some people see two people look at each other, so. As we
One
do
person
our
sees
work.
a fight about to happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's Jeanette. As we do our work
As nobody
under.
is surprised at that.
Yeah, just kind of keep in mind other people's points of view, because I want to now just transition into the 6 drive statements, which fall into very well about how we see the world from our own perspective and our own mindsets. 6 drive statements. As a reminder, we will strive to work together as a community that values the education our children receive at Acton Elementary School. We will strive to be fully, quote, present at the meetings by becoming familiar with the materials and by being attentive. We'll strive to invite and welcome the contribution of every member and listen to each other. We'll strive to be involved to our individual level of comfort. Each of us is responsible for airing disagreements during the meeting rather than carrying those disagreements outside the meeting. We'll strive to operate in a collegial and friendly atmosphere, which I gotta tell you, it always seems to be pretty collegial and pretty friendly working with everybody here at the table, and it has been for many years, so I appreciate that. And we'll strive to be responsible for examining all points of view, right? Looking at it from many angles as we can. That being said, are there any questions before we move right into the new material that we need to look at tonight? Does everybody have, I'll go right to Article 2, regular instruction. Okay, it should say regular instruction, Article 2. This is the majority of the teachers in the building. We've already looked at some specialty areas such as special ed, but this is the article that carries the most funding with it, because it's just about all the personnel. So it's a page and a quarter. There's the front, and then there's about a third on the back. Just to remind everybody on the committee, I look left to right, starting with the upper left-hand corner, moving to the right. You can see the different categories, the actuals from 2 years ago, the year-to-date. What we're most interested in this presentation is what the proposed budget is and what the difference is. If the difference is quite high, we often talk about it a little bit and give you a better explanation as to why. If it's way low, if it's flat, if it's a lot less than the year before, we'll give some narrative to that. Everything has a notation to the far right. And just be mindful, if something's $100 and it's down 50%, that means it's down $50. So sometimes the percentage can be huge, but the money's not, it's a big factor. It's just a big percentage of a little bit of money. So, starting with that, we're looking at salaries for our professionals, which is salaries for teachers. In aggregate, this year it's $1,390,540 and some change. And the difference is it's up almost 20%, or it's up $220,049. And this is for 23 teachers in pre-K through grade 8, and specials, and summer school. Okay?
23.
23 in this cost center. There's more than 23 teachers in the building, but we've already looked at some of those, and we'll look at a couple more areas that people are under teacher contracts, like the social worker and the nurse, but they're not in this because they're not teachers, but they're under the same contract, the same collective bargaining. So all of this is driven by the collective bargaining.
Right.
So how many, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We got a sheet last time and it talked about a total of 16 teachers.
Right, that's just regular instruction. So we have art teacher, music teacher, gym.
Okay, so that's
Music.
for 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this article's for 23. Yeah.
And I'd like to state that last year we had 21 teachers, and now we
Yeah.
have 23.
Correct.
And last year's percent increase was 28%.
Okay.
And now it's 19.51.
All right.
Well, how much of it is tied to rate increases, and how much of it is tied to FTE increases?
To what?
There's 2 FTEs, okay? There's 2 FTEs put in. Now, one of them, there's no cost increase to the budget because the person's moving. And that's Patty, who's with us tonight, and she's a certified teacher and has been a certified teacher here for many, many years, who stepped up and was an administrator for 2 years. She's going back to the classroom, so that fills one spot, but it's not new money that we need to bring to the budget. She's already in it. But she moved away from the administrative piece that we already looked at. Okay, so we're putting Patty in this as one of the 23 teachers. That's one FTE, so she's a transfer. The other one is a new teacher, and it's gonna be, Lee, it's gonna be a third grade teacher that we're gonna advertise for, and after tonight's budget meeting, I'll be, super transparent and clear in my weekly update as to who we're hiring and how, assuming everything gets voted on tonight, because we'll shore things up. So 2 FTEs. Your other question was how much is increased with the contract?
Yeah.
That's the rest.
What
So-
percent is it?
What was the third? Do we remember what the third is?
4.5.
4.5%. So it was a graduating. It was a 1, 2, 3-year contract with different percentages.
Different percentages.
This
for
budget
each
year,
teacher.
FY25, is a 4.5% increase to the teachers.
So how do we increase 19.5%
because
with
there's-
4.5% increase to the
Because
max?
Because they also
teacher
have
has different
Steps and
salaries.
levels. There's signing. There's like people that get off probation. So a probationary contract is 2 years. If you make it, great. If you don't, you find another place that you're a better fit. But once you're a continuing contract teacher, you're then eligible for, after 2 years of service, I think we called it a signing bonus or something, but that was new in this year's contract to attract talent to the school. So it's not just an almost 5% increase. There are other factors in that contract that help with the compensation package for the professional staff.
And this is outside of the benefits, this is just
Just,
pay.
Yes.
Correct. This is not health insurance or Maine State retirement.
So, Lee,
Everyone agreed to a 20%, I
what
mean,
the-
that's huge, isn't it?
It's not 20% per person.
yeah.
It's aggregate.
what the teachers have in their contracts is also, they have a step for experience. So if you have 1 year experience, you get a certain step. If you have 2 years experience, you get a certain step. If you have 3 years experience, you get a certain step.
So each
So
year
you
they
get your
move up.
percentage, and you also get your step.
Because the percentage is on the
Until you get to the
base.
top. The
So, like-
percentage is based on the base.
Yeah, so the actual raise that they're getting might be 6%.
And it depends on whether it's a bachelor's or a master's, year after year degree.
Everyone is
It's,
different.
it's pretty standard for all school systems.
Yeah, I'm not,
everywhere.
so the CBA.
I'm just shocked over the percent increase. I mean,
But
Well,
when
I
you-
just
when
said
you add an
28.8
entire
last year.
person,
2 people.
2 people, you're
so
adding,
has the enrollment gone up?
yes.
And it'll continue to. I just did a pulse on our incoming, and we're gonna look like we're gonna have 2 pre-Ks. But I'll go back to the question of a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, is an agreement between the school committee and the Teachers Association as to how people will be paid over the next 3 years. So these are all contracted. And each year it might be different depending on what they settle. So it wasn't 4.75 each year. It's 4.75 to turn the page into next year, which is the last year of this particular contract that's in play right now. It's fixed. We know what it is.
So
what was the percent increase over the 3-year contract?
I think it averaged at about 5, did it not? I'm going back to memory now. I'd have
Because
to.
each year it changes in
It was-
percentage.
Right,
Well, no, I know,
but-
that's why I'm
no,
asking what
I
the
know what
aggregate is.
What the 3 are and divide by 3.
That was almost 3 years
Or no,
ago,
not,
so I-
yeah, no, just the 3, just the, what was the percent increase from year 1 to
I'd
year
have
3?
to, I'd have to pull the actual CBA and look at that.
Okay.
We can do that. I'd recommend not doing it right now, but we can do
Yeah,
it
no,
probably
it
before you
just,
vote.
it's,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's just good information to have. I mean,
Sure.
because I'm used to, union contracts.
That's what this
But
is.
the thing that I'm not familiar with is the stats.
That's school stuff. That's
Yes.
not,
That's
it's interesting 'cause
It's very, it's
Yeah.
very standard,
It's-
so every year we look at the schools around
Yeah.
us. Some of them have
it's,
10 steps, 15,
Right.
20, you know,
Yeah.
it depends.
It's just that piece is not familiar to me.
Yeah.
so.
because it's
But,
only
you know,
in
the different
education.
rates
It's
every
only
year
in
is.
education.
Only in education. So
Yeah.
most union contracts are labor contracts, right?
Yeah.
They're labor contracts.
Yeah.
About how many hours a week, or what's overtime look like? What do my benefits look like, right? What's my shift look like?
Yeah, do I get a COLA?
But in
Do I get, you know,
education,
yeah.
education is different. So we have professionals that are working from a labor point of view. So it's just different. And it's in statute that you have to negotiate only with teachers. You don't have to negotiate with anybody else. Most schools negotiate with everybody, but you don't have to. So you have to negotiate with teachers in the state of Maine. Some states have statewide contracts. If you're in Millinocket or Acton, you have the same step and level. It doesn't matter where you are. North Carolina's like that, for instance.
Okay.
But if you're used to managing and working in a union shop,
Which I am.
education is a union shop with all the rules, but it's not run like a union shop. It's a hybrid. It's very unique.
Yeah, so
you
it's
know?
just the step part
Correct.
is.
You're not going to
the
see that at
confusing
Pratt.
part, yeah.
Right.
And Lee, what we do when we do our negotiations is we try to not be the highest in our area and not the lowest in our area, but we try to kind of stay in the middle of school systems around us. So if you were to look at contracts from school systems around us, you would find that we fall pretty much in the middle, and they all have the steps, they all have the
But when you're
experience.
negotiating these contracts, you're looking at the composition of your staff.
Yep.
And you must have some ideas as to what the step-up components are going to be. So when you're negotiating the contract, you know that you're dealing with something more than just the annual increases, it's
Correct.
also the stepped up.
Right.
Sure,
So
they
I
know
guess
that.
the question I would ask
Yeah.
is, if you're going to allow contracts like that to be made, what are you doing to control the other expenses so that you're not gonna get hit with such a large increase in your budget every year?
Well, sometimes you can't help
Well, you,
what
No.
teacher you're gonna get at a bachelor's in 3 years. They're supposed to progress. So you might have a master's here with 10 years and they're at the top. But each year, they're gonna progress to another step or another form of education to get a master's. And that's gonna allow them to
Are you,
have more money.
I think I get the spirit of your question.
I'm
You-
just
No,
trying to
I'm
understand.
listening to you.
shocked.
No, I get it, and I'm listening to you, so,
Sorry.
you know, it's funny, I've been doing this is my 30th year, so but not always sitting at the table in this position, but I kinda get a
But when you're
lot of this.
negotiating 3 years worth of contract,
Right.
you're looking out and trying to forecast
So-
out CPI issues,
Your,
aren't you?
yep, your margin on the entire budget year to year, Lee, is about 20%, because 80% of almost everything we look at is a contract. It's either labor, right, a contracted person, or it's contracted transportation, right, or it's contracted schools that we spend special needs kids to. That's 80% of the, $6 million we're looking at here in total.
But then you get into
20%,
class sizes.
then you get into
Whether you
20%.
can support the class sizes and how much other
That's part of it.
administrative
That's
support.
part of this is the class sizes I'm gonna call it a new floor. We've reset a new floor, so our class sizes are very reasonable. As low as 12 kids in a younger kid's class in a kindergarten to grade 1, and as high as 20 in my next year's 6th grade class, and an average of 15 kids in the middle school.
Isn't that
So those
awful?
numbers, you're saying those are awful low.
They
In
seem low to me.
comparison to many schools, I would say probably. But as people would like to say, this isn't just like every other school. That's part of the attraction and the education that you have. Anytime you can have fewer kids and a teacher, if you can change that ratio, the better education they're gonna get. That's what this school committee is committed to.
And the results, when you test the kids, the results are better than the other.
Well, again, you want to compare apples to oranges, we should be comparing ourselves with other classes of 12 to 20 kids, not 33 down in Sanford Middle School, right? Because how can you make a fair comparison? So you'd have to find
Well,
other
I
schools.
would assume that you would be outperforming them substantially.
Right, and that's a whole nother discussion that we do look at, is what is the bang for the
So
buck
you
that
do
you
have
get.
those statistics.
We can generate those.
I'd like to see them.
Here's the other thing is to think of, with the new class sizes that are in this budget that the school committee is committed to supporting, it's a floor, meaning if you have a class of 12, depending on the age, you can add another 5 to 8 kids if you need to,
Without adding a teacher.
without adding another teacher. So we're setting this up with, we basically have 2 teachers per grade except for 6th grade. 6th grade's always gonna be a pivot joint, and so is pre-K. Because pre-K, we never know how many are coming in, and this year it looks like we're gonna have 2 classes of pre-K, which is good. I think we're looking at least 20 local kids from what I just checked today. But you can add to that. Now, I will also say, into caution, sometimes you get a class that has what we call a lot of personality. So 20 of them is overwhelming, but 12 of them is probably just enough, depending on the personality of the class. I've had classes before where there's 20 of them and you could sneak 2 or 3 more in, and it really doesn't make that much of a difference because of the personality of the class. So there's that too, because we're such a small school, each class can feel very different. But this is rebuilding from the floor, meaning in my time left, which isn't a huge amount of time, this should be a great place to move forward and add children, and you won't need to add staff.
We're trying to keep this school as best as we can, and this is the way we have to do it.
And we represent the taxpayers.
I understand that.
And
No, I get it, that's why you're here.
I'm just in shock at it.
Shock?
Yeah,
How
I'm
long
shocked.
you lived in town?
Well, you can look at it another way too,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
okay.
if you look at another profession, you know, people are starting some other jobs like at 80 grand. You know, if you're a professional, you can start another job at 80 or 90 grand without having, some of them don't even have the 4 years of college behind them. So times have changed so much as far as salaries across the board with all different kinds of jobs.
Have you looked at going
It
12
scares
months a
me.
year with the school?
So this
Pardon
is
me?
where I was gonna ask you, Lee. I get a sense you've managed people in your career.
I have.
Okay, so managing people, you and I share some experiences together. Managing people in a union environment and setting up, let's say, monetary reasons for them to perhaps be more engaged with their work, you can't do it because the tide floats for everybody. Whereas in the private sector, you start somebody at 80 grand and they're a rock star, they're making 90 grand next year. And the other person you hired at 80 grand, if they're doing the job, they're making 81 grand.
And if they're not doing the job, they're out the door.
Right,
Exactly.
it's a lot different is all I'm saying, because this is, the tide floats everybody, and it floats better for some depending on where you are on the scale. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, I'm just saying that's what it is in education. That's, if you haven't worked in education managing people, this would seem very different to you, and I'm not surprised you're shocked. I'm really not. If you weren't, I'd be like, where have you been?
The world that I live
Yeah.
in, you set the parameters
I get it.
saying that we're
Correct.
going to try to keep the budget at a 3% increase for the year.
And
How
what's
do
it
we
look like?
manage to that? And if your labor cost is fixed, then you've
Right.
got to come up with other ways to get
So,
the budget down to the 3% level.
So at the very end, we're gonna look at the total overall. What does this all mean from the first time we looked at the first line item,
Yep.
many nights ago,
Yep.
to tonight, we're gonna look at the whole thing. And your overall increase is not gonna be that one line item. So what I'll say is, hold some of these thoughts till the end. You'll see the overall increase isn't huge, okay? But in this particular cost center, because it's Article 2 and because it is almost all of the teachers, tonight it stands out. But in the budget, in the whole budget, Lee, it really doesn't stand out that much.
Yeah, but
You
you
know, in
also
the
have to
whole
remember
picture, it
that-
doesn't, no.
2 extra teachers in that number.
So
And
even
the
if-
class sizes are shrinking.
John?
Yes,
John?
but again,
Yeah,
if
let these
everybody,
guys do this
like
first.
in a department, if everybody gets a 3% increase, but you add 2 people,
I
Right.
understand
all the
that, trust
salaries
me.
are going up, so
No.
that's where
But
this
there's a lot
is.
more than that.
Did you say that your son or your son-in-law worked at a school?
Yes.
Okay.
In Massachusetts?
No, in New Hampshire,
New
and
Hampshire.
they didn't get these kind of raises. There was a lot more pushback by the board.
You know, I
What,
see
what kind
negotiations.
of, what kind of raises? Like 4%? That's outrageous?
Their overall was less than 4%.
Okay.
And
they-
the negotiations takes place between
I'll get you, Dave. Hold
payroll as well as the benefit package, and they negotiate how much of the benefits they
They
have to
do
pick
that
up.
as well.
Yeah,
do that as
we do
well.
that.
And so they look at the total package
It does.
together when they're negotiating the package.
And I don't want you to think that anything just kind of slides through. Our negotiators are right here, and they're gonna be at it again next year for another 3 years. But I'm gonna tell you, Lee, I do appreciate it because you're new to warrant and finance, and this is an education process. So I think it's really important to have this discussion for the new people at the table. Some of you have been, you know this because you've been through it with us before.
How adversarial has the contract negotiations been?
It hasn't been
We
adversarial at all
don't
since
even
I've been
need a
around.
lawyer or
Yeah.
a representative
It's
from
pretty
the
good.
state union.
I mean, because, I mean, I've been involved with contract negotiations, and it has never been a pleasant experience.
Oh, no, we've
We've
got
been
along
there.
fine.
And
They've done
it,
that too in the
you know,
past,
there's
yeah.
a lot of,
It depends on your mindset coming to the table, and it depends on where you get your
Listen, I
information
always
from,
want
just
what
like
I want.
anything.
Ask
Leslie.
Amanda. And I feel I'm tough, but I also know we're in Acton.
Yeah.
And you tell me who's gonna come to work here. So in the last contract, I'd say we had to look at that, especially because after COVID, like I had said somewhere else, down in Walmart, they're getting $19 an hour. The other thing that the state did is they upped the minimum salary of a new teacher. They said, you guys have to, everybody in the state of Maine had to get to a certain point. I don't know if it was 42,000.
Yeah, we were already there.
Huh?
We were okay. It was, at the time, it was.
Right,
40.
but I mean, we were just there.
We were just
'Cause
there,
the-
but it killed
the
places in
contract
Washington
before,
County.
We
Yeah.
knew we had to get that, I mean,
Right,
it
you
was
didn't have
sad,
choice.
it was like 38,000, to me, that's
Yep.
not good. So, you know, we upped it and we made sure, we don't wanna be the last
Right.
ones upping
Right.
our.
I'm not
'cause-
suggesting
Because
that
we're
at
in the
all.
middle
Yeah.
of nowhere, and so to get people to commute, you need to give them the extra
Actually, the
money.
quality of life in Acton's very good.
But not all of them
It
live
should be an
here.
attraction to people who
No,
want to
we
live
don't-
here.
Yeah,
don't.
but
Not
it's-
everyone
it's-
lives here.
And not everyone can afford to live here on, you can afford to live in Acton on $42,000 a year.
The other part that's, if you wanted to do some research too, just to see, all of the schools, their collective bargaining agreements are on their websites, like any school district. It's out there, it's
Is it?
public information.
They do a nice job at researching, and so does the union. They bring in their research, and of course, you know, things don't always match, but it's been a pretty good process over the last 3 contracts. To answer your question, how is it? Sure, it could be, you know, sure it could go on forever in disagreements, but it hasn't been. I know Dave Cody's, I can see him out of the corner of my head saying that 8 times. But I wanted you guys to exhaust your conversation before I call on him. Are you guys good for me to call on him?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Lee, I actually, I have like, I just brought it up here, I have all the salaries
Good.
for every district in the state of Maine up on my computer. What I don't have, and I think I might have it in my classroom, is like the ranked list.
Yeah.
You know, like what the rankings are and so forth, but I'll give you a synopsis of that, you know, just briefly. I've been part of negotiations from the teacher side. You may not know I'm a teacher, I teach junior high science here.
Yep.
And have for many years. And, you know, the general gist of it here is always, you have to look at where, you know, the demographics of where you live, obviously. And in York County, when you compare Acton to York County, obviously, we're not gonna measure up in salary compared to, you know, there are far more, you know, richer towns like York and so forth that are in York County that pay their teachers far, far more. We obviously aren't trying to measure ourselves in that way. On average, we're a hair below, and I have the rankings, like I said, somewhere, for York and the state. But we're a hair below, you know, the average generally from year to year, maybe right close to the average for York County. For the whole state of Maine, counting, you know, Aroostook County all the way right down through some of the poor areas, like Washington County, we come out just a hair above the state average. And again, I don't want to leave this meeting because I don't want to miss a minute. But I'm going to try to dig up the rankings, 'cause I've got a hard copy of that. And I know when you're talking about, you know, one of the key focus points for really the teachers and the school committee in this last negotiations was when we looked at other contracts that had just come out recently. One of the big thrusts in most of the contract was actually getting incentives to bring teachers to your school. You know, most teachers that come and teach at Acton School never live in Acton, Maine. You know, they're traveling a distance, okay? I'm one that does live in Acton, Maine, but most of them are traveling a distance. So there's all kinds of things that have come via, you know, on these newer contracts are incentives. As you know, just like with everything, there's not a million teachers out there. The pool is not what it used to be. So trying to attract teachers has been a big thing, not just here in Acton, but, you know, you look at Noble, their contract has incentives like helping pay, putting a certain amount of money towards student loans to bring them in. Signing bonuses, which we tried to do a smaller version of that here and there as well. Also, ways to keep other incentives to keep them. So, you know, we were seeing that with a lot of the contracts. We've got to stay competitive like never before. Schools have to sell themselves. They've got to market themselves to get the teachers that in the limited pool of teachers. But so when we're looking at it, I believe we are comparing apples to apples, because we're looking, Acton consistently ends up, it's been this way really forever. We end up kind of a little above the state average, which we're not one of the poorest areas in Maine that is factored into the state average, and we end up a little bit lower in this county because this is one of them. You know, we're not as competitive as many of the schools salary-wise because we're not demographically as well off by the measures. So, and as I said, I've got all the state data here, every one of them on here, but I don't have the ranking, and that's the easiest thing I think for you to look at, to look at the ranking, so I'll work on it.
That'd be great, thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. I don't think too that many people in the town realize how important it is that the school committee worked so hard a few years ago to help Acton attain the status of a donut hole exemption from the consolidation law. Because if we were in a consolidation, if we were in an RSU, for instance, we wouldn't be having this discussion, because the RSU would tell us, okay, the board makes up the budget. Acton being as small as we are, we might have 1 or 2 people on a big board, okay? We'd have literally no input.
No vote.
No vote, much of anything. When the budget is all completed, they say, okay, Acton, this is your share. This is what you're gonna pay for your school this year. For instance, I looked up as we were going through this, I looked up Lebanon, for instance, they're comparably close to us population-wise. Lebanon and North Berwick are both in the 2000s, let's say, population-wise. North Berwick's share last year was a little over 7 million. And Lebanon's was a little over 6 million. And, I mean, that's what they have to pay. It's North Berwick, Lebanon, and Berwick. Berwick is the largest one. So Berwick gets more people on the board, you know, than the others do. And so we worked really hard at that time to get ourselves, for one thing, nobody wanted us, because we're a low receiving community, you know, because of our lake property. The state considers us to be rich. So, you know, if we joined, like with Sanford, for instance, they're a high receiver because they have a lot of poverty and, you know, low income people, and so we would just pull them down. So they, you know, they love to cooperate with us, and we have a great relationship with them in cooperating and doing things, but they don't want to join us. They don't want us to join. Somebody tried to get us to join with Kittery, and it's like, are you kidding me? We can be a union with Kittery? How would that work, you know? So we worked really hard. We went to Augusta. We dealt with the commissioner.
We went through many
We
meetings
went
in
through-
Wells because they wanted us to join with Wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did meetings with them, and we said, we can't do Wells. We actually had a vote. The people had to vote on that to get
Wells
out of it.
didn't want us either.
And SAD
But
57.
Wells, they pay their starting people back then like 10,000 more than us. So we were like, we can't raise all of our teachers $10,000 because what would that do to the taxpayers? So we were like, we can't really do Wells. We don't match.
So we worked really hard, and at the end of the last minute before that commissioner left her office,
Yeah.
she sent the word down that we were approved as a donut hole exemption, which means that we have local control of our school and local control of our budget, and that is a big thing for the town of Acton. I don't think the people in Acton realize how important that is, that we can do our own budget. We can decide what needs to be fixed in our school. We can decide, you know, if we're in a bigger district and you need something that needs to be fixed, well, it goes on a list of 6 or 7 other schools, and when we get to it, we'll go down the list, and when we get there, you know, if you're lucky, we might get to you, unless it's an emergency. So the donut hole exemption is huge for the town of Acton, and it was quite a few years ago now. It was big at the time, but I think that has kind of slipped people's mind over the years to realize how fortunate we are that we can control our own budget within our own town, and make up our own budgets and have the people approve them, and actually have a say in them, rather than just have an RSU say, okay, Acton, this is your share. Shapley, this is your share. So-
Now, Lee was also saying, so we start at, okay, we want only a 3% increase. Well, we don't work that way. We work with what do we need. And one of the big things this year, actually last year was discussed, was a smaller class size. So even at the end of the budget last year, we added a middle school teacher because the middle school teachers came to us and said, "No, we need help, you know? So we go, okay, you know, we want to do everything we can to make this a better experience for the kids to get a better education. Now, that's how you get rid of this board. If you don't like the kids, get on the board and change it. But
I
right
don't
now,
think it's
this
a matter of not liking the
this
kids.
board loves the children and wants to help
I'm
them.
not saying that at all.
No,
Trust
I
me.
know.
No, if people
I know
out
that,
there
Lee.
in TV land
Yeah.
think, you know, we're overspending, or they say, why can't a teacher have 30 kids in the classroom? We
Well,
don't
no,
want that.
You know,
We don't want
I'm
that.
not suggesting that at
Yeah.
all, but
Yeah.
I don't know, obviously, I don't know a lot about the educational side of it, but the class size that you mentioned seemed pretty small to me.
They are, and remember, it's a starting point, is
But
what I was saying. Yeah.
there's always just one class, like every, 4 or 5 years that's little.
It can be that way. But put it this way,
be.
pre-K's, this year's pre-K has 14 kids in it.
Yeah.
Next
One
year, we're starting at
one
20,
year you
and
had a
some- we often
class
have
that was
24.
10.
Not
For a
quite
whi-
10, I
it
think
was
we
a
were
while
13
back.
or 14.
It was a while
Oh,
back.
maybe before me.
A little while
Yeah,
back.
10 small.
Before you.
10
But,
small,
You
yeah.
know, the
Mr.
classes on
Tyler's
either
class,
side
do you
were
remember that?
20-something, so.
Yeah.
Mr.
So,
Tyler's
for example,
class
my-
had like 10 kids.
My son's first grade class, there are 2 first grade classes. My son's class started with 13 at the beginning of the school year. I think they're up to 15 now because they've added kids throughout the school year. And now so there are 2 classes and both classes added kids. They add one here and they add one over here. So they kind of balance them. So, together they're 26 or 27 kids. My daughter's 4th grade class has also added kids throughout the year, and they're at 26 kids in one classroom with one teacher.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier for the kids to get the attention and interaction with the teacher that they need when there are 2 classes of 15 kids rather than one class of 27 kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just one other thing is COVID messed us up. Messed the children up, not being able to be in the school, then this remote learning. So we're trying to catch up, give them, more teacher attention, and that's how we can do it with smaller class size.
And going back to, do you have proof of them? We do definitely have proof. Patty has shown us several times in some of our school board meetings, the scores and how they're coming up especially in this past year since COVID, how the teachers have been really working hard to bring the kids back up to try to help them recover from all that time that every school lost with COVID.
And
So,
I have 7-year-old grandkids, and their class sizes are in the 22 range.
Yeah, yeah, that's, it's right there.
They have
Yeah.
a teacher and they have a support person that,
Yep.
an aide
We
that
do
comes
too.
out and helps out.
Not really.
But then,
We do. We do.
what
Almost
happens
every
if
classroom
3
has one
families
with
move
IEP
into their
kid, they do.
town
If there's a
and
night.
and that 22 class is now 26, which is exactly what happened in 4th grade this year.
yeah.
Like they just added someone this week, right?
Yeah, I think it was today was the first
Yeah.
day my niece told me about it.
I mean, the
Yeah,
kids are
another
all
kid moved
super
in, but another
happy
kid
because they
moved out
get new
too.
friends.
Yeah,
But
So,
they added
yeah.
3 at the beginning of the year. 1 moved out, and someone else moved. 2 moved in.
Yeah.
So but now 22 is fine. 26, 27, that's a big jump. But
Yeah,
if you
we do-
start with 2 classes, then you can add, and then it's a lot more kids that need to come into the district before the class sizes are too big
that's
again.
correct.
And we always have kids in the top 10 at Sanford.
Yeah.
A lot of
Valedictorian
times.
last year.
Yeah, we've had valedictorians.
We had a
and-
valedictorian at Sanford last year. Our kids tuition to
Yeah.
Sanford, and we've had kids in the top 10
Yeah.
every year.
It seems like
We've
the
had-
top 3, we always have
Yeah.
one in the top
Yep.
3.
I think one of the other aspects that you gotta look at, Lee, is some of the matrix, when I come to the school board meetings, and the matrix that they're using now is telling them what students need more attention than other students. And when it first started, I mean, it was red, yellow, or green, I believe it was. And, I mean, you can see the progress that they have made with the students. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty much good overall. with the class size. that they have.
Lee, I appreciate your learning curve
It's
for
a
being
learning
here. No, it is, and I completely understand that it is.
Yeah.
In the past, you know, we've taken care of other places, so the general consensus in public education is the younger the kids are, the less independent they are, so the smaller your class sizes should be for the little people, because it takes them an hour just to learn how to line up. And as you get into older kids, into, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, they're more independent. There can be more of them. And then when you get into high school, they're even more independent, so there can be even more of them, because that's kind of that's even how funding is arranged for children in American public education. Last year, the school committee supported the middle school, very good. This year, we're doing great with the youngest ones. We got small class sizes, but we really haven't hit that 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade very much. This budget takes care of that. Now pre-K through 8 is going to be in great shape after this budget. For, I hope, many, many years. As you said, we're set up so you can add children in both grades. So, all right. Very good. No, that was a great one to start with, huh? Right out of the gate. No, you might as well get it out of the way. That's why we saved this for last. All right.
And the
Very
next one,
good.
the next one's down.
Well, yeah, so yeah, CJ's very excited that the next one is down. Salaries paid to instructional aides or assistants, that would be what we call ed techs, is down 1%, or almost $68,000. Now, the rest of these, not the rest, but most of the rest of this page, I'm just going down until you get to about 2/3 of the way down, or source code 2320. I'm going to do what I did with all the others. These are all fixed costs for group health insurance, contributions, retirement, and in the ed tech's case, Social Security. So there are some numbers there that you may or may not ask questions of. Paul and I went over this today, and some of your bigger increases have to do with either additional ed techs under the Social Security or people moving, such as Patty. So when Patty moved, her salary and benefits moved back to Article 2. But I wasn't going to go over each and every one of those, because those are those fixed pieces that we talk about every time we meet. Okay, so hearing,
What was the
Excuse me.
medical insurance rate increase this year,
We went
Paula?
I
Two.
should be getting it anytime.
Haven't
What
got
do
it
we-
yet, right?
What's your placeholder again?
2.
Yeah,
Two.
2.
Two,
That's good.
right. And the other one is with health insurance. We're a small pool, so you can kind of, I mean, we're less than 60 employees.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of health insurance that's family plans. So if we know what's going on in people's, you can almost predict, you know, how healthy our crew is, right? And that's how they look at it. They measure the risk. That's what insurance companies do. So I think 2 is going to be reasonable. I'm going to go all the way down. See if you can find it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the bottom is easier to find. It's called Source 4300. That's when we're back into talking about each line item, and it's up $500, or in this case, look, it's up 100%. So it's 500 to 1,000. That was one of those that I was mentioning that you want to actually look at the number. And that's repairs and maintenance. Paula, we talked a little bit about this and why it went up $500, and it has to do with the fact that mostly our new music teacher, hard for me to say, is bringing more to the table.
Yeah, but
Okay.
well, we have a lot of instruments that need some tending to.
Right.
She would like to be able to use them
Yeah,
and give
right.
lessons.
We want to revive the band. That died with COVID when you couldn't touch things and blow into things, and it never really came back. And our new teacher's dynamite, and she wants to be able to do more. So
Excellent.
we want her to do more. Then you get into 4,400, which is just the contract with our copier and printers. It's flat at 3,000. We get into transportation, purchased from private sources, and that's summer school. So that changed.
Right, so we have a grant for summer school.
So that, yeah, completely went away, and that Patty did wonderful work and has supported the summer school through a grant. Some of the funds that are still, the federal government released to states are still hanging around or under COVID. And most of that's going out to summer programming, and then it's pretty much gone.
Which item is that?
This is 43, excuse me, this is
5140.
5140. Source 5140 is pretty much going to be in a grant. Now, next year, will it be in a grant? It depends on if they're giving out the money and if we apply. But Patty applied and we got it, so kudos to her and us
Yay,
for that.
Patty.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we're on source 5610. Now this is Sanford High School kids, okay? So this is an interesting one. If you look at it, it's up $113,000 roughly, or almost 12%. And that's because next year we have 87 students at the high school at almost $13,000 per student. We have a duty to pay for a high school education, and what we use is the last year's cost of what the state says it costs to raise and teach a high school student. So remember, they leave us in 8th grade, and there might be 20 of them. So we say, okay, 20 just went off to the high school. But the senior class, who was 4 years ago in 8th grade, only had 12 kids. So 12 graduate, and they're out of the system. So it's a 4-year turnaround of our total aggregate amount of students at the high school, plus those people who move into town who have a high schooler who never took Mr. Cody's science class because they moved here as a sophomore. They live in our town, and now we're paying for them to go to high school. So we've had a few of those that are interesting to us that we don't know who these kids are, and they're going to the high school. So there was 78 kids last year, there's 87 this year, so.
We had 5 move in, right?
We had 5 move in, yeah.
You had 82, now it's 87.
We had 78 though.
78. Yeah.
So I have more.
He's got last year in front of him,
Yeah, 82. Stanford High School enrollment.
so a year ago, but we also had kids
Oh,
move in, that's
Mary,
why.
Mary's got written on last year's budget that we had
On the
78
budget, it
kids.
was 78.
78.
Here, I did this
Yeah.
for you guys, that's what.
78, but
We had-
5 moved in
We
during the
had
year.
5 more move in.
She said, yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting part of the 5 move-ins, some of them will have younger brothers and sisters that come here, but like I said before, maybe they don't. Somebody moves to town with a high schooler, they never experienced the school. They only know Sanford High School, and we're paying the tab because they're a resident, just like we would for a kid who went to school here. It's the same thing. So that's up a bit because we have more high schoolers. On source 5800 travel, which is down $500 or 20%. And then the next one is instructional supplies, which is up $5,000 or 31. And I kind of went through some of the granular pieces of this 31%. It's just basically the rise of cost and items for school. There was nothing really new or outstanding we brought to the table to get us to that 31% when Paula and I sat down earlier. Equipment, furniture, instructional, non-capitalized, it's flat, $200, assessment and testing. If you turn the page, I'm now looking at source 6400, books and periodicals. Now this, books and periodicals supporting classroom curriculum, very good. So these are the, not the library books, Paula, these are the classroom
Right.
editions, okay. Because we're going to see the library next in Article 6, correct?
Yes.
Correct, okay. 7,300 equipment. Basically, the difference, that $4,700 increase in equipment, it says right on there, it's a new kiln for our art class. We have a new art teacher. There's a kiln in there for pottery that isn't heating up to the number it needs to heat up to, which is like above 1,700 degrees. So she and I talked, and she priced out a bunch, and she found one for under $5,000. So that's what that is. The only increase we have in equipment is to get the art class a new kiln, because the one that's in there isn't getting it done. She can't use it.
What's your policy on when something goes from an expense line item to a capital expenditure?
5,000.
Yeah,
5,000?
you have to put, you go out to bid. This one's just under. That wasn't any magic either, but it was great that it was under 5,000. Yeah, find one that's 4,999 or less, right, Lee? That's the committee, right? I got it. Dues and fees are down $100 or 20%. And then field trips, which we're just getting back into that now. Our field trips are not really winter rich. They're generally fall and in the spring, and we got people that are already getting things ready to go for spring. So those are all of our field trips pre-K through 8. And that's up about $3,000.
And that includes transportation.
That's everything,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that would be possibly wrapped up in the transportation contract.
Yes, at their increased rate.
Yeah.
The other one is, and it's not always that like everything's equal, meaning if you go tubing in Wyndham at the snow tube park as an incentive and a fun reward for, say, second graders, that might be a different cost than taking third grade to the art museum. But what we do is we have an account and we distribute that amongst the classrooms, and some might be over and some might be under, but at the end of the day, it can't be over that amount. And we give them the opportunity to choose their field trips, and often they go to the same places, but sometimes they come up with something new. And they're almost always York County, Cumberland County. We're not, I think the last time we went to Boston was Sandra's 5th grade class, and that was probably 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. But most of our field trips are local. Yeah, go ahead.
A question back on 6400.
The very top.
Yeah, is there any special projects that you're doing to increase the purchase of books and periodicals? Are you upgrading, is it just your general upgrading of materials, or is there an overhaul of certain classes or something where you're changing out the?
Are we expanding, like, either iReady or iMath, iReady Math or anything? Are we getting new materials for those?
No, this is mostly connected to like reading and Fontes and Pinnell and the collections in the classrooms that match the
Right.
current. So look at,
Yeah.
think of, so I'm gonna answer your question as I talk to a teacher. For instance, there's things called, I don't wanna get too deep into curriculum, but they're called literacy circles. Like we have students, say you have a class of 10 students, or all of us, we all read at different levels. So what we do is we have the kids and we differentiate them. We have kids that might read a book that's a little more challenging for them, but not out of reach. Other kids that are reading well above their grade average, right? So we get books for them. And then we get kids that are struggling readers and they're not even reading a grade yet. And they have Title I support. They get extra push-in support. Those novels and that curricula and that engagement of kids at that age, things change. So we update and get books that are more 21st century that the kids can read and connect to. So there's an overhaul year to year. Some are classic. They're there forever. They might have been written in 1962 and they're still just as good. But yet there's more and more new novels that are coming out in our literature. So that's where most of this is. These are classroom collection books for the most part. Not all, but for the most part. Each classroom has its own classroom library, let's say.
Okay.
Okay?
Question still on
Yeah.
that particular line. I see that your 23-24 budget was $8,100, but your actual was only $3,890.
Yeah.
There's a difference of $4,200 plus
Yep.
change on that aspect. So was that something that was taken into account? You didn't spend all that amount
The
of money?
the 3890 is year to
Year
date,
to
so there's
date.
still a
It's
not
couple
over
months
yet.
left
We
of the
haven't
year.
spent it yet.
Do
Only
you-
like,
It's a
little
year
over
to date.
halfway through.
There are,
Year
I think to get to the question that you might ask is if you look at the data over time and you see that these areas weren't spent all the way down. Paula and I were just talking about this today, that's data we're gonna look at as we build future budgets for sure. That's an actual to date though, and we still got 4 months left of school. So that could be 0 by June. It could be 2,000 by June. It depends on what they spend between now and June. Like field trips, actual, it's gonna completely
Yeah.
change in the next 6 weeks, I guarantee it, as
Yeah.
people go on field trips.
Yeah, field trips is $900 so far.
Right, it'll be
For-
gone by the
First
time
grade
you
is
hit
going
May.
tubing on Monday, so that's
Right.
gonna go up
Right.
after Monday.
They're tubing on grass?
Yeah, that's, I don't know whether, I don't get it.
In
but
theory,
they're going.
first grade
I'll
is
get you
going
Daniel.
tubing. They
Yeah.
didn't go tubing last year
I
because we got a snow.
know.
Kindergarten didn't go tubing
Right.
last year because they had a snowstorm and there was a crash
Yeah.
at Appleby Road in 16, so they couldn't get to the tubing hill.
Right,
My kindergartner was very upset.
So you got a place now that makes snow.
they must have to, because, boy, today they could have, but yesterday they couldn't have. Daniel,
In regards to 6400,
6,400.
you said that's based off the curriculum, so you're
Correct.
have, what, 3 more months left of the school year? Wouldn't you have gotten most of those books already, so
4 months.
you shouldn't be expecting
It's
substantial
also
change?
Title I is in here.
Yes.
And she buys books all year.
So Title I is a special reading program for the percentage of our kids that aren't reading at grade level.
And they buy those books on like a regular basis?
Well, she buys a good chunk in the beginning and towards the middle, because depending on how the students do.
It's a great question, you know, when do we buy our books for school, right?
Just 'cause
Definitely
based
it's front
on
loaded.
Curriculum, I could get the
Yep.
field trips and those
Yep.
things, but with curriculum, like you have an idea,
Seems
like this
fixed.
is what we're
Yeah.
working with, it should kind of be a set.
Okay, I wanna just, we're dues, so we're at dues and fees, we're at 8,100. Well, which I mentioned, it's down 100, it's down, okay, so now we're on co-creative field trips, which we just mentioned, so we're really on the last one, which is 8,900. And it's flat, and this has to do with school programs, theater programs, guest speakers, and presenters. During COVID, we didn't do any of this, and we're finally getting back on our feet. We used to be pretty rich in having presenters and come to our assembly and do things for a whole week in our literacy classes, the Shakespearean theater people used to come. And we're kind of getting back finally to moving towards where we used to be.
That's good.
Right, because it used to be a
Love that
hallmark of this
stuff.
place.
Yeah.
And so it's funded, now we gotta get him to come. And I think like our new sixth grade teacher who spoke to the last school committee meeting we had before budget season, like she's gonna be doing a play this year.
Yeah.
And, might have to tap some of this. Our new music teacher's very interested in performances and has done a nice job. So attracting and getting people here from the outside to bring the outside world in is really, really important. So even though it's flat, it's there, and I'd like to think that we're gonna exercise it like we used to. How's that sound? Bring back what we used to do.
To be or not to be.
Yeah, very nice, Shakespeare.
Very good, very good.
So the overall, if you look like we do with all of our cost centers, you can go all the way from left to right. Your overall again, this is probably our biggest article. This is the meat and potatoes of the Acton School Department budget. It's just under 16% or 15.69. We'll look at Article 6 next, and then we're going to look at overall. We'll get to the point where we're looking at the entire Acton school budget for next year. So Article 6 is called Student Support. Everything's laid out exactly the same. I'm going to kind of mention that the positions in this Article 6 are technology related, health related in the idea of the health clinic and the school nurse, and social emotional related or emotional mental health with our social worker / guidance counselor. Those are really the pivotal positions that are in this, along with all of the pieces that those people need to support the staff and the students at Acton. So if I could, we're going to look salaries paid to professionals, again, in aggregate, salaries for the social worker, the nurse, and the librarian. In this case, we're actually down almost $70,000 or 26%.
Library media specialist.
Yeah, did you say
Yeah.
librarian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we?
What caused it to go down?
Paula, we got the same people.
The instructional coach, assistant
The instructional
principal was
coach
in
got
the-
moved,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was Patty's position with me as assistant principal instructional coach, we're moving to bringing in a new principal, and I'm gonna kind of move over to the side and be just superintendent in time, but work with that as a co-principal, work with that person. So we eliminated the AP and instructional coach, which was in there. There's your difference. And the overall difference between Patty moving back to the classroom and bringing in next year's principal is roughly about $30,000 if that person requires benefits, which is roughly, family runs us about 26. So that's the cost difference of Patty moving back and me bringing in somebody new. The return on that will be when I go part-time as a superintendent or not. We'll discover that next year. We don't know what's gonna, as I explained at the last meeting, if you were here, that whole plan with me and safety and insurance for the person we bring in. So that'll pay for itself probably in the following year, because you're not gonna need 2 full-time principals. You're gonna have 2 of us getting the school going, and then I'm gonna hopefully be able to throttle back. That's part of the plan, right? So the cost of that overall in that transition is about $30,000, but you can see the savings here with not having that position in, built into Article 6.
So this is reducing
This
the
is
number of people by
Correct,
one?
by
Yeah.
1, that's correct. Last year, you would have seen that the instructional coach was in there. It's not in there this year.
And so this is down 26%.
Yeah, or
The
70,000.
The
yeah.
last one, Article 2, the first item,
Yeah.
is up 19%. So it almost balances there.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I think it's important when we get to the end to look at the
Yeah.
overall. That's, I always said at the beginning of at the first meeting of every one of these is,
Everyone.
don't let the bottom line of any cost that's not your sticker shock. You gotta look at the whole picture, which we'll get to tonight.
Then you can be shocked.
Then you can decide if you got your
You're
sticker
gonna be
shock.
shocked
That's when
or
you can,
not.
that's when you can pretend you don't speak English.
Yeah.
He's already done that one.
He's blind and I don't hear, and she doesn't speak English.
Glad you came tonight.
Humor.
Salaries for temporary employees is really, it's just, it's paid to substitutes, it's $1,200, it hasn't
the one
changed.
above that.
Whoopsie.
Skip
Oh,
IT.
Yeah, there's
salaries
one
for,
above us, the
okay, so
IT.
salary, regular employees, IT. So we're down $36,000 or roughly 50%. Now, you're gonna see the rest, of that in consulting fees. So what we decided to do with that is we had an administrative position, it was called an administrative position, here for 25 years. That person resigned and it gave us a chance to look at this technology department differently. We had a workshop on this week, Monday night. And it was decided from the workshop that I originally came with hire a consultant for the things that a consultant can work on and fix, and I call them, many have heard this, the things that are in the walls and the things that are in the air. Keep the internet, the servers running, help with the systems piece, like a data administrator, keeping the building running with IT systems. Outsource that, just like we do with nutrition. Let's partner with somebody, let's get Sanford or somebody on board with a consultant, and that's not an employee. And then find a stipend for a person who's already our employee to do the break-fix stuff. Today I had 3 break-fix things, 2 I solved, the other one I never got to and somebody else fixed. That's because I'm in the building and I can be available. I'll put things aside and go take care of this because it's broken on somebody. I've envisioned that as a stipended position for somebody who would do it during like their prep period, so they get paid to do it. The decision was made Monday that no, what the school committee would rather do is hire somebody to be in the building to take care of those break-fix type issues, along with, I have a list of probably 25 other things in any given day that can happen. Do they all happen at once? No. But could they happen at once? Probably. Statistically, probably not. But in the course of a week or a month, any of those 23 items could happen, right? And the school committee said, let's throw a person at this. So, and go ahead.
And
there's
let's have
more.
that person step into the classroom once in a while.
Oh, right, yes.
With a little bit of technology for the kids to learn how to do Google Slides or something like that. So not all the time, but
Right.
yeah, but enough to keep
Add some-
everybody busy.
So the overall technology budget won't change. Here it looks like it changed, but when you get into the consulting fees, which is somebody we could outsource to do in the walls and in the air piece, then it's going to be flat. It's going to be the same as what we had last year in our budget for IT. It's just going to look different. You're not going to have an administrator IT director. We're going to have a person who works hourly, who's there 40 hours a week in the building every day helping people. But the skill level of that person probably won't be able to go out and figure out why the server's down and fix it and get it ready to be able to teach math now. That skill level is probably going to be somebody who's more of a consultant role, who we'll have to figure out who that is. How often does it happen? Not often enough to hire somebody at that pay grade to be in here all day waiting for the server to break down. I mean, it's IT. Those of you that worked in private industry get the IT position. There's very much, IT in a school is a very niche thing. You got to understand Macs, because every school has Macs. Business isn't big in Macs. Business likes Windows. Schools love Macs. And then you get into systems like Power School and Infinite Campus and Brightspace that are all very school proprietary software programs that other places don't use
And the
because they're
testing
school.
programs.
And the testing, the online curricula. So school technology, we'd be really serviced well to find somebody who's got some skill and some experience in school IT. Not setting up systems for chain restaurants, let's say. Maybe some of that is transferable, but boy, if we could find somebody that knew that IC actually meant Infinite Campus and knows how to roster people, that would be great, because that's all we're looking for, but you gotta find these people, right? Okay, let's go to the next one then, which is the salaries for substitutes, which is flat at $1,200. And then in this particular article, we have stipends that we pay out for certain things that have to happen in the building. Some are contractual, not all, but how they get paid is contractual. Stipends are based on the base of FY25 collective teacher salary. It's based on that. So, of course, as the salaries change year to year, so do the stipends. Some of the stipends are listed over in the notation section. That's up $8,000 or 45%, with stipends paid to mentoring, PBIS team leaders, recertification staff, and the summer coordinator.
Were there any stipends added this year that weren't on there last year?
We added an emergency, like a administration substitute, let's call it. I wanted to call it emergency aid, I was
Yeah.
told not to. So it sounds like a weird title, but like, if the new principal's out, who's running the show if it's not me? And that would be like an administrative substitute, and we have some people on board that could do that for us. So that'll be a stipended position.
Yeah.
Won't be used at all at the beginning of the year, unless if somebody gets sick, but I mean, that doesn't happen to me. I mean, we're pretty much here. That's part of, that's.
Talk like that.
Well, no, administrators, you know, you kind of have to be there, right?
Right.
So hopefully.
Don't say you don't get sick, that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
you know, you can sneeze on me, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I thought you couldn't hear.
I left the house without my
Yeah.
hearing aids.
Yeah,
You know what would be helpful for me?
yeah,
Do you have job descriptions for the superintendent's
I
job
do.
versus
Matter
the
of fact,
principal?
I do. Matter of fact, I just
would
went
love
over,
this.
I just went over all this principal stuff because
He knows
we're putting together a
somebody.
hiring committee.
Yeah.
There's a job description and some duties in there. And then there's a superintendent's job description, and then there's a superintendent principal's job description, which they created when they hired me 8 years
Are you
ago.
under 2 contracts or 1?
I'm under 1 contract with 2 jobs, and it's about probably 60-40. This time of year, it's 50-50 because of budgets. But during the regular school season, when I walk in the morning and leave at night, most of the time my decisions and what I'm doing is running the building. But this time of year, most of what I'm doing is doing this kind of thing, which is not the principal, this is the superintendent. So it's kind of hard to take my hat off which one I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my job description is both positions, but I have to go back and disaggregate those because we need to hire a principal, and the principal won't be doing this.
And I don't have
Yeah.
an issue with your program,
Yeah.
but how do you resign from half a contract?
Well, that's interesting because you're right, because that's what I'm not. I have 3 years left if they choose to keep me and if I choose to stay and all those things.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is probably a year from now, we're going to renegotiate. How's the new principal doing? How are you doing, Mr. Ross? Do you want to stick around next year or not? And do we need you or not? Or is this person going to run with it? So, I mean, there's out.
We can cut your pay.
Cut your pay, absolutely, a year from now, you know, but let's see. Like I told them, if my special ed director decides she's gonna do other things, if Sharon, you know, who's gonna be the special ed director? It's gonna be me. So having me around isn't a bad thing because things can happen. But a year from now, these are the conversations we're gonna have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I go back and
Yeah.
ask about the stipend for an administrative substitute and say, if you
Yeah.
have a principal and you have
Yeah.
a superintendent, and if you're out sick or something, they can't cross
So Patty and
support
I,
each other?
Patty
Oh,
and
yeah,
I,
they would
Patty
have
and
to
I,
both-
you
they would have to both
we'd have to
be
both
out.
be out. But
They'd
it
have to
could
both.
happen. But it could happen.
They
So
can't
for
have
instance,
both.
But this
out?
could also be
Yeah.
for the librarian.
what's that?
That's-
No.
that's-
No.
Well, the sub here is, yes, but he was asking particularly about the new stipend. We were
Right.
talking about a new
Oh, I
stipend,
got you. And there
which
were
is
two.
somewhere else,
There were
right?
two.
So the point being is Patty and I show up every day.
Right,
If Patty needs to leave early, I know if I need to leave early, so there's always somebody in the building.
right.
I don't think she's called out sick this year. Neither have I.
God bless you.
That's
Knock
because
on
we're
wood.
built like administrators. It's a different. You have to wear the shoes to understand what it means to not come to work because your next day is just like I wasn't there. So you got to come. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Now we're taking a chance. We're hiring a new administrator. I'm going to know in the first month if this person's administrative material or not.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if this person's out all the time or finds reasons to can't be here, I'm not sure it's going to work very well, Bob. Because you have to be here. But I got to build in a security blanket of if we put somebody in a contract for a year, unless if I'm walking them out the door, which gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. I need a plan for somebody to run the show if I'm not in the building. Right now with Patty and I never question that there's going to be somebody here. And I haven't with all the people I've had here. It's been a really good run for 8 years. But I've also been in positions before in other schools where people disappear in the middle of the night. And it's like, now what do you do? I'm serious. Like I've worked in a big school system. So you need to build some things in for when your administrator isn't here. And right now, we're always here, but we're moving into a new generation of administrators. And I asked, let's put in a safety net of an insurance policy of an administrator who's available to put a radio on and run the building and go get a substitute in case if no one was home. Because you need somebody in here that's going to run the building and make decisions. So, yeah, that's where that came from. A lot of this, Lee, is going to kind of shake out in the next year, too. It won't be in next year's budget because we're in a huge transition right now with leadership. Yeah.
Maybe way out here, but you're looking for someone now. You're looking for the principal.
Correct. We posted the job.
You posted the job. Are you sneaking in that person like you, the principal superintendent person?
It's advertised as a principal who, if the person is motivated and eager and has what it takes, would be a fast track to the superintendency. If they choose to keep this model, it's gonna be up to them to choose if this
Right,
model
right.
works. It might not. There's other people that think the superintendent and principal should be separated, have a part-time superintendent like they had for years, and a principal full-time, and that might be what they choose as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's out there.
It's been advertised, and I have 6 applicants, and I had a bunch of text messages, because I know everybody, and everybody's like, what are you doing? So it's more of an interest of like, where am I going? But then they're like, well, wait a minute, if you're leaving, that opens a seat, what about me? And I'm like, well, apply. Yep.
Well, that's good to know that you are getting,
Oh, yeah.
even if it's through the back door, like,
Well,
like where are you going, John?
Oh, you mean the text message?
Right,
Yeah,
you
well, I
know.
mean, to get a seat at the table, you have to technically apply.
Right,
Yeah, and
but
we have
no,
6
there's-
applicants.
There's
right now.
interest.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, there'll be a lot of interest in this. Anybody who's a smart administrator who looks around will look at this as a really high-performing, excellent place to work with a great staff. I couldn't tell you why anybody wouldn't, because I've worked in
That
other
says a
places
lot
that
for
aren't
school.
this, and it'll age you. I won't be able to hear like you can't hear if I
Yeah.
keep doing it, that kind of thing.
The problem, one of the biggest problems that we ran into with the two-person thing, with the full-time principal and the part-time superintendent, was that our part-time superintendents were almost always retired. And they really weren't really the ambitious types of people. They were kind of leftovers from their jobs, and, I mean, really, seriously.
Florida
They
every
came in to
winter.
just kind of, didn't really have any real big issues to worry about. They were just, doing their thing.
I don't
and-
wanna think of that time period.
I
That's
know,
our
it was,
past.
it was,
Done.
it wasn't a happy time. It wasn't a happy time.
They
for
didn't
the-
know they were gonna deal with Mrs. Stanton, huh?
That's right.
No, it wasn't a happy time for the board, I can tell you that. So that was, I mean, to
I
find a
didn't mean to
part-time,
take this
to find a
off.
part-time
Offline.
superintendent who's young and gonna give you a few years as your superintendent is difficult, would be difficult. But we'll see.
And it would be even more difficult in a smaller school unless if you do combine the positions. Because somebody who fits that profile probably isn't gonna work part-time,
No.
right?
That's what I mean,
Right, yeah, that's what you're getting at,
Yeah.
right.
But we'll see.
The rest, not the rest, but many, just like before, are gonna be Social Security, Medicaid contributions, retirement contributions, so it actually picks back up at the third from the bottom at 2510. It's gonna be tuition reimbursement for professionals. And this is tuition reimbursement, it's flat at 24,000, but this is tuition reimbursement for continuing education, so that's college classes. So 3 University of Maine courses or 9 credits to work on your master's degree or your bachelor's plus 15 or your master's plus 15 or your doctorate.
So everyone's
This-
entitled to 3 classes per year?
Per the contract, correct. Not everybody
No,
uses it, but some
no.
do.
They have to submit.
Oh,
Right.
sure.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, they have to have a plan.
And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have to pass with a B or something.
Right,
Sure.
yes,
Yeah.
there's stipulations, but
Yeah, but
yes.
like all the
yeah.
teachers are allowed to
Yes.
Yeah.
submit a plan and
That's correct.
Yep.
yeah, they don't automatically get it, but they are entitled to that benefit.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's what that is, and it hasn't changed. It's the same as it was last year.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about the insurances and the other thing?
Sure.
I know in the town how they look at insurances and things like that. Do you have a built-in amount because you might be hiring somebody in the school year?
Yeah.
1 person, 2 person? How is it figured out? A family?
We
put-
generally go family or middle of the, to adult, but
We have a reserve for that too.
yeah, we
correct?
do.
We have a
I
reserve for
usually-
that.
Health insurance
because you
reserve.
never know. Somebody
Yeah.
might come in and, they might be married and then all of a sudden they become a family, or they might be
Right.
single and they get married, and
Right.
so it's, if there's not enough in that account to cover that, then one of our reserves, that's what one of our reserves is for.
To answer your question more precisely, which I think you're asking, is, so we need a 3rd grade teacher, we don't know who that is.
Right.
So we set it at bachelor's plus 15, plus like 4 or 5 years with family insurance, and that gets you to a number.
Yeah,
If they come in
exactly.
with more than that, then make sure your next hire is less than that. And if they come in less than that, then you got a little bit to pad the next one you buy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
Because you don't know
yeah.
who you're hiring. We've got some
Right,
people out of
exactly.
college,
Well,
but
no,
we
the
also,
school
We also
You know,
hired some people with
the
a
town
dozen
does it
years'
the same way,
experience,
yeah.
right?
Or
right.
masters.
You have a master's in 12 years and you're our new art teacher. You're less than the former art teacher because she was here for 36 years.
Right.
But you're way more than the person who just got out of art college, right?
Yeah,
Because you're trying to
yeah.
hire the best candidate within reason.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And we've had a plethora, we've had a smattering of people at right out of college to, I've been in 3 schools and I've been doing it 12 years, so we don't only hire out of college, but we do when we need
When
to
you
or
can.
can, right?
When you can.
Yep. And I
Thank
will,
you.
yeah, sure. So that's kind of how we build the budget because we don't know who we're actually hiring. 3,300 is professional employment, employee training and development services. Is that number right on the percentage? I just noticed. I didn't pick that up earlier.
That's the
Consultants
consultants.
Okay.
in there too.
IT consultant.
That's,
All right.
that's gonna be your
Of course
IT
it is.
person,
I
right?
just all I did was look at the percentage. Then I went back and said, "Who is this?"
Right?
Yeah.
Don't look at those
Yeah.
percentages, okay, on the bottom of the page.
So the position in IT that we had, that's where the number hasn't changed, and it gives us huge flexibility when we hire. So you have a placeholder for an hourly person, and then you have some consultancy fees. If we have to spend more on a person to bring them in because they have more of an education or training, then we'll back off our consultancy fees. So this is a new territory for us, but the number for IT hasn't changed a penny. It's the same number that we would move forward if we still had the director of
The
IT.
IT.
The question is, how do we want to allocate the funds and who do we want to invest in? And the school committee was committed now to a person, not a stipend, so that changed this equation. That's why we had that workshop Monday, because we needed to know what this was tonight.
But you say it's from the IT, but the IT you took out 38,000. Why is that 45? Why is that not the same number as the number that you took out? If you're keeping it the same, you said.
I think you have to add 45,209 and then the 38,193
Yeah.
to get to the salary of.
Plus
But aren't you keeping
Plus
some of that
benefits.
salary?
Plus
in that?
You gotta
benefits.
add the benefits.
You gotta add the benefits to the hourly person,
Okay.
not to the contracted services. That's the good thing about contracted services, it doesn't carry the weight of the employee costs.
Right.
Other professional services, that 1,000 hasn't changed, it's flat, and that is for the nurse, and what she needs, I forget the title, but she either needs a PA or a doctor who's like the consulting doctor to the school, simply, for one simple reason, and I'm sure there's way more complicated reasons, just to hand out meds to kids. Because they're under a doctor's order to have this med during the school day, and she's the nurse, but you have to have a doctor on board, and that's about $1,000 a year to have. Is it York Hospital? I think
Yes.
we have York Hospital on board with us. It runs us $1,000 a year to make sure that our nurse is in a good position with them. The next one is kind of a break-fix category. It's repairs and services for laptops and any computer technology, which is flat at $5,100. And I can see that. I'm kind of doing break fix. I don't fix things, but if I can fix it, I try because I'm kind of doing a little bit of the job right now. And some of our older laptops, the keys and stuff can literally fall off. We had one where the keyboard almost kind of fell apart. Good thing is we have a backup. That one's probably toast, but there's other ones that a screw falls out. We just put another screw in and it's fine. But it depends on what's going on with the actual laptop or the computers that need to be fixed. So I've kind of felt that a little bit. I've done a little bit of it. Our photocopier is flat at $6,500, which are our expenses for the copiers. Software repair and maintenance is up $265 or less than 1% for software maintenance programs. We've added a few and we've backed a few out. One of them that we backed out was $11,000 in Brightspace, and we talked about that. Actually, going into that meeting about technology, Paul and I had already talked, and I'd already kind of hinted to the teachers Brightspace is probably going away. School committee had no problem with that, so that was not a hard hit for us. But we also picked up some other programs, so it's kind of a wash. It's up $200, but we won't be having Brightspace in the budget next year. You cut the cell phone for IT coordinator, but it's still listed there, right? But it shows 100% cut.
That's gone.
Yeah, it's down, it's zero, so we just figured that without an administrator director, we don't need the cost of the cell phone. Travel's down $400 for this cost center, for the professionals in this cost center. That's everybody, not just the IT director or the IT person. Supplies is up $350 or 10%. for everybody. Now, here's books in the library. This is what I asked Paula earlier. Source 6400 is books and periodicals. You'll see it's down 5% or down $250, and that's this room.
Right.
And that's consulting with our library media specialist, which Paula did to set that. I didn't really touch that. She did that work with Jen Goodwin.
Now, doesn't Jen usually get some credits from the book fairs
Yes.
and
Oh,
things
sure.
that helps
Yes.
fund
Yeah.
getting new books in
She gets a
here?
lot of free
Yes.
books.
Yeah, yeah.
Technology supplies are flat at $2,500. Library equipment is flat at $150. Hardware is up $5,000 from 15 to 20. And dues and fees are down $150, which is 15%, but it's off 830, so that makes sense. PBIS is flat at $1,000, and that's supplies and incentives for like our PBIS store and other things we do for kids. So there you go. So overall, this particular budget is down 11.56%. But again, don't use that as your overall, because we're gonna do that next.
So is there anything in particular that caused the increase about 5,000 on equipment?
Yeah, that
That
was
was
the, go ahead.
IT.
That was IT. You wanna look that up?
Is that like,
We used, before our IT director kind of had resigned, he was one of the first people we did a budget with
Yes,
back in
yes,
November,
yeah.
which was great. So we just kind of carried forward his recommendations based on him thinking he was still going to be here, to be honest with you. And then some things changed, so we're carrying forward the plan, but with somebody different.
And he just
So that's
said,
new equipment?
yeah,
that
he
he's
has
Yeah.
it noted, he's buying some rack rails, I don't know what they are, for some upgrade. So he's buying, they were gonna get some upgraded rack rails, whatever that is.
Okay.
Not just those is the 5,000 increase.
That's what he says, yeah.
Did you say what they were being used for, like the purpose behind?
If he was here, I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the tough parts about talking about a technology budget that somebody else developed and is no longer at the table. You know, I'm your interim IT guy, and I can't tell you what a rack rail is. I think it's something you put your canoe on your truck, you know, so,
that will be a duty for our consultant.
Yeah,
yeah, to figure it out, yeah.
or a person that comes in, whoever we hire to come in,
Yeah.
you know, for the, every day.
Oh, if they know that, yeah.
So, this is really where we're at the end of every cost center, and this being 6 wasn't the biggest, 2 being the biggest. We got that out, we got 6 out of the way. Thank you, everybody, for coming Monday to sort out that IT piece. That makes it much better for us.
Yeah.
And now I really need to turn it over to Paula, because Paula runs all the numbers together and can give us the over-under on this, and then we can move into the voting piece.
Thank you.
Last one. Is there, oh, there you go.
You guys all have one?
Lee, did you get one yet?
Yep, thank you.
Pass these back. Give Jennifer one. You want to tell them what they're looking at, Paula?
The first number, the 3,921,466.33, that's the amount the state says that the town pays for the school based on a calculation. The 1,679,301.97 is the additional taxes from local government that needs to be raised. And the 628,625 is the EPS subsidy that we get from the state. And we are using 400,000 of our undesignated funds to offset the budget, bringing it down to 6,629,393.30. And a net change of 4.24% overall.
Paula, what's left in your undesignated
What is
after
left?
using this 400,000?
We're also gonna be using
Another from that,
Right.
this sheet,
FY23.
yeah, okay,
Correct. Yes, Leslie, from that sheet that Judy put together.
okay.
That's FY '23 carry forward funds that went into school unassigned. There'll be articles on that, which we're gonna look at, I'm sure, when we look at each article.
Okay. So if you, when you deduct 400 and what is on this sheet, what's left after that?
I'll tell you in one
You're gonna have to, yeah,
second.
$3.
No, we have
No,
a
it's-
plan to
yeah.
spend it down. We have to have it be at 5% of our previous year's budget.
Right.
And so, we have a plan for this year and the following 2 years to be in that
Okay.
category.
And what the plan is to give a certain amount back to the town each of those 3 years to bring us back down to that, correct, Paula?
Correct.
So it's to offset our budget each of those next 3 years to bring us back down within the
The allowable.
yeah, the allowable.
Allowable's a good word, right?
Yeah, so we have 525,000. And we plan to use some next year, and then the year after that, our 5% range is about 325,000.
Okay. Just so we know where it
Yeah.
is, where it stands after all of this.
Right.
So-
This is a year to kind of sweep a chunk of it, so to speak, to keep us in compliance and also keep this percentage down to under 5%.
Under 5%.
Right, because it's there.
Right.
If it wasn't there, this would look very different.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. And we just had that conversation yesterday with a few people. It's like, yeah, so it's there and it's transparent, it's right there. Your other numbers, lower left corner, 9.7.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is, what is the percentage increase if you didn't have that 400,000?
9.7, right?
9.7.
Okay.
It's
Roughly
right there.
10%. So, yeah, so if you want to look at, as the town does, my understanding from the select board is, you look at just what your expenses are, you don't think about your revenues. So we have always looked at the revenues, and I've always had this level of, we look at the expenses plus the revenue to get us to 1%. So, to answer your question, if you don't bring in the tax base and you don't bring in the 400,000 of unassigned and you get rid of the state subsidy, it's roughly 10%.
10%.
10% on your cost side, but then, accounting, you gotta bring your revenue in. And yesterday in a meeting, I figured out the town doesn't do it that way. I only know it this way, I didn't know how the town did it, and I learned yesterday how the town does it. So, it's 10, or in our world, we recognize that, it's under 5. And each article you will move to and the school committee will vote on will bring you to these numbers. Because each one of these cost centers is an article, and then there's some articles on the FY '23 left over, which is this list of projects that we want to do. Which, if you remember, we went and looked for a special school meeting on that, and we decided we were gonna wait till the 6th of April, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
There's been a lot of meetings around this, and I've been to every one of them, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page with where these accounts are and how we're drawing down on them.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this document
Yeah.
helps in just detailing exactly.
Judy did a nice job with that.
Also,
Yeah.
on the other side, just to point out that
Right.
what else they, have done in the past.
Yes,
And,
because,
That
yes.
historical
no, that's
information
what I-
is
Yeah, I know.
valuable.
They're
So you
past-
know
yeah,
when
I
our
got
sidewalks
one.
were put
I
in,
already have
and
one.
that's why
So one for Judy and one
1991 is
for me.
significant, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Paula, go to get the articles. Yeah, she wanted to make some copies.
Yes, yes.
Paula has this, right? From the
From
town.
the town.
She's
So
right
we,
there.
so we can follow
It's
the
page 23.
actual article numbers?
Yeah.
You have 10,
Gonna start on
But the school starts on 10, so it's gonna look a little different because it's combined.
Right.
We used to always be the second article. Call a moderator, then Article 2 was the school, but it's different because it's the town and school.
Okay, so why don't we do it this
Page
way?
21.
It actually starts on page 23 of yours.
Go around the circle.
We pulled out just our piece.
Why can't you just do?
So it starts R23. Go to 23 on yours.
23, Joe.
And we're Article 10. Now, the school committee's gonna take it over from here.
Yeah, we'll take turns.
Reading the other ones.
That's
Okay.
That's what you have to do for them.
So what's gonna happen is the school committee's now gonna vote, Paula and I stay out of this piece, they vote on each article. It gets recorded as a vote up, however it goes. And then pending any discussion, it would be Warren Finance's turn, if I get the process right. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we're ready to begin voting on our school committee budget, warrant articles, and we're gonna start with Article number 10. To see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for regular instruction. The school committee recommends to expend $3,100,956.16 for regular instruction.
All right, yeah,
Stop right there.
What happened?
yeah. Because we're inserting numbers this year, so we need the exact number for when we vote
We
Do
to.
they have this?
Yeah, that's on there.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
theirs
No.
isn't, because,
Do we
not
wanna
on
give them
ours.
ours?
no,
Wait,
that's what Jen said.
We couldn't,
oh, sorry.
when we got the original document, the Warren and Finance recommendations were already typed in, and we couldn't assume that was gonna be their recommendation, so the
Oh, I
document
get-
they
no, I
have is
didn't know that.
blank. Because we can't assume, you know what I mean? That
So
was-
they'll just record the
You know
numbers
what?
while
You
we
can
talk?
have
They talk?
ours- You can have ours afterwards.
Or just,
Then have the
just
numbers
read
on
it
them.
really slow.
Read it
right?
really slow.
No,
You want us to just give it?
We couldn't give them something that was predetermined.
No, I understand where you're, because yours had the recommendations on it.
Right.
Okay, we'll go slow.
All right, so 3,000,000,
It has the numbers.
Article number 10, the school committee is recommending $3,100,956.16 for regular instruction.
Okay.
okay.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second?
All in favor? 5-0. Jeanette, you do.
Okay, ready for Article 11, to see what sum town of Acton will
Let her
authorize
sit-
the
let her
school
sit
committee
here.
to expend for special education.
Does Warren
What's happening?
Finance
Then
go
what-
after?
No, we do all of ours, and then
What
we
happened?
hand it over to them, and then they do all of it.
Gotcha, sorry.
Okay, ready? All
All right, what is the amount?
right, we're going back
Well,
to,
here we go.
we're going back to,
Use my-
now
give it to
we're on
Leslie.
Article number
Give it
2.
to Leslie.
Jeanette,
Sure.
11.
11.
Article number 11, Jeanette will read for you.
Article 11, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for special education. School committee recommends to expend $1,392,900 for special education.
So moved.
Okay,
Second?
all in favor?
She could still do that. Anyway. Article 12. Now, if you look in your book, the numbers, like this is we just did Article 3. So when you look at the fourth column, Article 3, you'll see the amount that's actually there that we're voting on. Okay, so if you miss a number, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
We
mine's
got
easy.
John's papers.
You do the zero?
Yeah.
We're CTE, aren't we? I don't even have one in front of me. I know where you're at.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
So, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for career and technical education, the school committee recommends 0 for career and technical education.
I'll second that.
Oh, you gotta have a first.
Swear first?
So moved.
So
Jeanette can second.
All in favor? Now, just so Lee and maybe some other people, this is a high school article, and since we don't have a high school, that we always put 0.
Okay, the article's always there.
By law, it has to be.
By law, it has to be in
Law.
there.
Yeah.
What is that one then? There's a number or not?
It's
Zero.
zero. It's 0, and then
Okay,
it's a high
that's
school
it.
article, but we
So-
have to show it.
Some year we might.
Article
13 is
12
different.
is 0.
0 was 12.
Article 13, Amanda?
Article 13, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for other instruction. School committee recommends to expend $66,443 for other instruction.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Everybody else set?
Yep.
Okay, Article 14, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for student and staff support. School committee recommends to expend $571,712.81 for student and staff support.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Okay. Article 15, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for system administration. School committee recommends to expend $256,573.
Hold on, there's a 14 cents
a
in
what?
the actual article.
There's a what?
I mean, in the actual, the book,
In
the
a total
budget.
of 14 cents.
Does that matter?
Right?
14 cents?
No, then you'd have to change your article.
Go with the article,
Go with
is
the
my
article.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Take it
14
off your
cents.
School committee recommends to expend $256,573 for system administration.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Article 16, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for school administration. School committee recommends to expend $299,542 for school administration.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
What do we got? Do I have something good?
17.
Do I have something good?
Yeah, you do.
Not
Oh, yeah.
CTE.
To see what sum, this is Article 17, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for student transportation. The school committee recommends to expend $385,350 for student transportation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Article 18, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for facilities maintenance. School committee recommends to expend $551,916 for facilities maintenance.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Article 19, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for debt service and other commitments. School committee recommends to expend nothing for debt service. $0.
So moved.
Awesome.
Second.
That's great.
All in favor? Article 20, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to spend for all other expenses, including nutrition. School committee recommends to expend $4,000 for all other expenditures, including nutrition.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Articles 21 and 22 raise funds for the proposed school budget. Article 21, to see what sum the municipality will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Recommending $4,540,785, and to see what sum the municipality will raise as the municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grades 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Recommend $3,921,466 in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15688. The explanation is the school department's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that a municipality must raise to receive the full amount of state dollars. Amen.
Keep going.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
School committee recommends.
Recommends to appropriate $4,540,785 for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, and to raise $3,921,466 $466 as the municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grades 12. Total combined state and local, $4,540,785, less state subsidy minus $619,319. The amount required by the state from the town is $3,921,466.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That particular article, by the way, is written by the state. That's a state
Wording.
wording.
Took me a while to figure that one out.
And Article 22 is also written by the state.
So Article 22, this article requires a written ballot, not by us, this is at the actual voting. To see what sum the municipality will raise and appropriate in additional local funds, recommend $1,679,302 that exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by recommend $1,679,302 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school committee. The school committee recommends raising and appropriating $1,679,302 in additional local funds and gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $1,679,302. Essential programs and
where's she reading
services
that?
allocation model does not fully support all the costs of a pre-K through 12 program. These funds support programming not included in the essential programs and services model, including transportation, nutrition, and other educational and support programs.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Article 23 summarizes the proposed school budget. Article 23, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025, from the school department's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essentials Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20-A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. The school committee recommends to expend $6,640,709 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 to fund public education from grades pre-kindergarten to grade 12.
So moved.
Excuse me, Amanda, would you read that amount of money, please, again?
$6,640,709.
Thank you.
Yep.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? And there's a little explanation that goes with that, too.
Oh, yes, sorry. You want me to read that?
Yeah.
Explanation. This article is a summary article and approves expenditures of the proposed budget of $6,640,709. This article authorizes the school committee to expend the funds appropriated in the previous articles plus other revenues. This article does not raise any additional money.
Article 24 authorizes expenditure of grants and other receipts. Article 24, shall the school committee be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. The school committee recommends to authorize the expenditure of grants and other funds as per Article 24.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Article 25 authorizes a transfer to and expenditure from the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. To see what sum the school committee will be authorized to transfer from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated capital improvement reserves account, and to authorize the school committee to expend funds from that reserve account as needed in its discretion. This account is used for repairs and maintenance of the building and parking lots. School committee recommends to transfer $325,000 from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated capital improvement reserves account to replace flooring, sidewalk improvements, roof repair, security doors, and security upgrades.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Article 26 authorizes a transfer to an expenditure from the minor capital project reserve fund. Article 26, to see what the sum the school committee will be authorized to transfer from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated minor capital project reserves account, and to authorize the school committee to expend funds from that reserve account as needed in its discretion. This account is used for minor projects. School committee recommends to transfer $54,700 from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated minor capital project reserves account to replace the kitchen dishwasher and convection ovens and to purchase AEDs for the school.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Article 27 authorizes a transfer to an expenditure from the fuel reserve fund. To see what sum the school committee will be authorized to transfer from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated fuel reserves account, and to authorize the school committee to expend funds from that reserve account as needed in its discretion. The school committee recommends to transfer $10,700 from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated fuel reserves account to replace used funds.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Article 28 authorizes a transfer to and expenditure from the Tuition and Assistive Technology Reserve Fund. Article 28, to see what sum school committee will be authorized to transfer from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated Tuition and Assistive Technology Reserve account, and to authorize the school committee expend funds from that reserve account. This account is used for purposes of covering unexpected new residents moving in with high school students, homeschool students deciding to attend charter schools or the high school, and new students with students having special needs, new residents with students having special needs. School committee recommends to transfer $75,000 from the school's undesignated funds to the school's designated Tuition and Assistive Technology Reserves account for the salary and benefits for a teacher hired after the fiscal year 23-24 school-town vote.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
That's it.
There was an error on the amount, and it's because I didn't change it, on Article 23 to the total. That's what the total should be, and that's what we,
23?
yeah.
Do you need to do it over again?
Yep.
Thank you.
What's the total?
We'll get it.
Hang on, I'm finding it. Do I need to read the whole thing again?
Yeah.
Okay. The article as well, or just the recommends?
The whole thing.
Okay. Article 23 summarizes the proposed school budget. Article 23, to see what sum the town of Acton will authorize the school committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 from the school department's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. School committee now recommends to expend $6,629,393 for
And 30 cents.
30 cents.
And
30 cents. For the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 to fund public education from grades pre-kindergarten through grade 12.
So moved.
All in favor? Where's the?
Second.
Oh, okay.
And then all
And all in
in favor.
favor?
Yes.
Where's the article about, where's the article about the doors
got-
and the?
It's in with capital.
It's in
Yeah.
with capital,
But they're
okay.
saying-
Security
This-
upgrades
yeah,
is part of
security
that.
upgrades.
But there's some,
All right.
You know, I have a whole extra set here if
And
somebody
then the
wants it.
explanation
Yeah,
on
you
the
know what
back
they,
has
you
the
know what we
dollar
have
amount
on
again.
here?
Make sure that one gets changed.
It's a whole extra
This
set
is a
that was
whole
mixed in
set that
mine.
has.
So you can use those
sets
numbers.
and numbers, you can use these numbers if you
Oh,
want.
they know
say
what-
the same thing.
Yeah, no, they don't, and, yeah,
And
yeah, you wanna use these for tonight.
Yeah.
With that change, all the noted, because that
Yeah.
was a misprint, yeah.
Take yours back so you can share it with somebody else. Jeanette gave me hers. Because this is what we want to use for tonight.
school committee will swap
that?
places,
We
so
wanna
you'll
use
be
these
down
for
here for the
tonight.
camera.
Yeah.
Be the right numbers.
Good catch,
Yeah, because it'll
Leslie.
be a whole lot easier.
Well, do you see your name written on here in 3 places?
Do we adjourn our budget meeting?
No,
They're part of it,
they're part of our budget meeting.
and then
so-
they're meeting
We
after.
used to in the past adjourn because we finished our business.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's adjourn now.
And then,
wanna-
and then
You
we,
can
re-
open
and then
your
we
budget.
open.
You take
Right,
over,
okay.
Yeah.
and then you're gonna stick around though,
We're-
because Jennifer has business with you.
Right.
Right, but I mean, we're gonna be here for this piece. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay, right.
I'd like to
Right.
make a motion to adjourn at 6:59.
Second.
Oh, is that all it is?
All
Now
in
it's warm
favor?
for next time.
Okay, and we'll swap and give you this under the table so that you can be facing.
We get it out of the way.